This daily drawing practice exercise that you're seeing now being drawn in real time is a railway station somewhere in Berlin. I'm sure someone will know, and if you do, please tell us in the comments. I thought this was a really interesting looking building. To me, it had a almost early Art Deco feel to it, and certainly inside, although I suspect it's really much older than that. It is a challenging amount of drawing for 10 minutes, but I thought it was in some ways a good challenge to just capture the proportions and something of the detail. I realized before I began to draw, I wasn't going to try and do that star effect in the windows, in the square windows, that there simply wouldn't be time for that. But I do want to capture something of the decoration and something of the recesses and something of the shadows and certainly the proportions. And I also wanted to very quickly catch something of the people, the figure that stands more alone and closer to us, and at least some of that group of figures at the back, because it is very good when we're drawing quickly to develop the skill of, even in quick drawings, of navigating ground level of our buildings effectively and not being tempted just to do a straight line. That's really going to rule out the possibility of adding the sorts of elements that we have in life to it. Keeping areas of our drawing flexible for later on is a really important skill of anticipation to do. And if we're drawing on location, we may not even know exactly what we're going to draw there, except that something there will better reflect what we're drawing, the view that we have. So I'm working on this first doorway and trying to get the proportions correct of the dark space to the window above, using the figure and that lamppost to help me sort those out. And then I decide I'm going to go across. Now, there are a lot of, if you like, small recesses going back into the doorway from the outermost plane of this wall. And there is no way, of course, I can start to even understand that in my time, let alone draw it. So a number of close together lines to suggest this is what I'm doing. And there are also some vertical lines for those vertical bands of decoration, which are easier to see on the reference because they're, I think, some sort of metal on top of the stone. But, of course, creating all of them with the same black ink line, they do tend to all look a bit the same on my drawing. But I still wanted to try and put them in. Going down to this third one, and I realised that there are people, and I need to just hold off the building for a little bit and capture them. And notice how gestural these are, but I think quite effective, really. If I had more time to draw, I would have drawn the closer figure with just a little more care and a little more detail, though still trying to keep it fairly drawing the effect of the person rather than drawing a figure. But with these furthest figures, that's not the case at all. But I probably should have at least made some of their trousers dark or some of their tops dark to better reflect the effect that we have. That's something that I could have just done in seconds. But once I'd blocked out the figures, I was keen to get back to the building and didn't give them any more thought until just now. So now I'm trying to get the perspective angle correct. And with this series, I'm not using my pen to measure angles and then slide them across to compare on my paper, because I'm wanting to develop the skill of judging them by eye better through these quick drawing exercises. And we don't develop a skill if we don't use that skill and then have a look at what we've done and make adjustments in our ongoing drawing. So now we've got this last just checking my proportions and exactly how this should work with this glass, frosted glass. And now just checking what's the overhang of the cornice, because it's where the cornice ends that the pediment goes to. So if I end the cornice prematurely, if without looking, I'm tempted just to finish that top right cornice where the corner of the building visually is from this angle, then I'm not going to have enough length to take the pediment from the top of the pediment and to get the angle looking correct. I'm either going to have to drop the apex slightly and change the whole proportions of the pediment, or have a line, an angle that's too steep and therefore doesn't look right from a perspective point of view. It will look like that side is shorter than the other side, as if the top of the pediment isn't really centered. So these are the small things that even in a fast drawing, we need to invest a little time in. And time is certainly going away. So I'm pushing to the left side of the building. Again, trying to look at the proportions and get them correct. And again, I'm avoiding drawing a straight line at the bottom, but I am observing whether the line goes up or down. Now, eye level is probably a bit below the eye level of the people we see in this. I think I'm on slightly lower ground across the road, though I could have been standing on something. So there I am working out. Now, where in the reference does the apex of the pediment align? And then I find that point, and that seems to work out. But you can imagine that if I hadn't done that overhang on the cornice, then that right-hand diagonal line wouldn't have been in the right place. Again, when we do something such as that decorative wreath medallion type feature element, in our reference, if we look, it doesn't center under the top of the pediment because it's set back slightly, maybe only 50 centimeters, but it's enough to visually not be under. But again, if we haven't checked carefully our reference and we're thinking, oh, this is in the center, then it's easy just to put it directly under the very top point of the pediment. And what this does is it reduces the three-dimensionality of our drawing. It looks less recessed because we haven't taken advantage of the fact that there is a recessed part that we can indicate in our drawing, in our details. Now, as I move further away from the center, I'm becoming more and more gestural. This is the fastest part of this building that I do. But despite the fact that my lines are faster, I'm still working hard to keep the proportions correct. But I think there's something that's really quite satisfying where we have more of a focal point in the drawing which has more intentional line work in some ways and more detail and more precision for the finer details. And then as we move out from that, we loosen some of the tightness, we lessen some of the controls. Because I think that aligns with what happens in life, that we have a focal point that we do see more clearly, but the things further away, we're not seeing with the same clarity, the same deliberateness. Now, we're very, very close to 10 minutes now, and I'm just very quickly trying to capture these windows, which unfortunately are angled out. And look, I could have just pretended they were all shut and not just one of them. But this is an opportunity to work out, how do I draw this? Again, because the angled windows create more three dimensions, they create more depth. We don't just have a flat plane, but we have parts of that plane going back and coming forward. And just from a technical point of view, what's the best way to draw a row of angled opened windows? Is there a more easy way to do it with greater accuracy in the visual effect than another way? And so, again, this is the time we want to be practicing those things in our 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute daily drawing, because then we learn what does and doesn't work, and we can build on that in our subsequent drawings. So pretty close to being finished. I do want to add those windows down the side. And then I do also want to add something of the road and the gutter and these posts, because I think they're a really nice stepping forward from the building, which pushes the building back a bit and creates a nice sense of depth. With these windows, I did the lines. I finished up getting lost on what was window and what was space between window, and when I went to join them up, I realized that I probably had missed a few lines, and so I didn't try and have precision. I again just tried to create the effect, and because it's a more peripheral part of the view, that's fine. I think it works quite well. It doesn't look wrong. But now our 10 minutes is up and I've gone into double time. If you want, you can use the cog icon and slow this down as well. If you want to watch it in half time, slow it down to half speed and you'll be watching me in real time. But at this point now, I want to capture this row of posts. Do you call them bollards when they're tall and thin as this? And of course I need to keep them in their perspective angles. It's quite a strong perspective angle, and I need to foreshorten them as they move backwards. I think our pedestrian there waiting for the lights to cross is standing right in front of one, maybe even leaning on it. And so I allowed for that in my drawing. And then a couple more going back in the other direction. I almost finished and thought, no, I need to put a few more in, which I think was a good move. It should have been a little bit higher. Looking at my reference now, the top of it is just a bit low down. But such is the beauty of hindsight, I guess. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this interesting, helpful. If you haven't hit the like button already, why not do it now if you've got to this point? And I hope you have a go drawing this. You'll find the reference, of course, on my channel community page. But whether you draw this or something else, whatever you draw, however long it takes you, however frequently you do it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next video. Bye.